Today we're going to review the TOEFL speaking section. As you may know, there's 6 questions in the TOEFL speaking section on a TOEFL test. There's 3 different types of questions, 2 questions for each type. The first type of question is a personal question. Question 1 and 2 of every TOEFL test asks the student a personal question about his or her experiences, personal preferences, beliefs, etc. So, this is usually an easy question as the student already knows the answer to the question based on how they feel or what they think about something. Once the correct format is learned on how to answer this question, these will be the easiest to answer because they don't take much time to review or think about. It's also very good that they are the easiest because you only have about 15 seconds to prepare before speaking for 45 seconds. The student will almost always immediately know the answer to the question, making it much easier to have time for note-taking. As I mentioned in another video, taking proper notes is very important to being successful in the TOEFL. The second type of question is when you will express an opinion. Question 3 and 4, the student will be asked to clearly express the opinion of the person in the recording. Personal opinion does not matter, only the opinion of the speaker. This is something that you have to pay attention to in the TOEFL test. On question 3 and 4, they are not asking for the student's personal opinion. They're asking only for the opinion of the person in the test that either speaks or you learn about through writing. In order to answer this question, the student must be able to comprehend the recording. If you can't understand the recording, then how can you answer the question? I would suggest to listen to the recording over and over if you can't understand it the first time, until you fully comprehend what it's saying and what it's talking about before you try to answer the question. Only focus on the thoughts and opinions of the speaker in order to answer the question correctly. Remember, this is the opinion of the speaker in the test, not your own opinion. The last type is an explanation of a conversation. For these questions, you will be asked to listen to a conversation and then explain what the conversation was about. For this question, you're going to listen, explain the conversation, and then sometimes express your own opinion about the topic of that conversation. Question 5 includes some personal opinion. Be able to explain the problem and then choose which solution you would personally recommend. In question 5, there will always be one problem and 2 solutions that will be presented. You need to explain the problem, explain the solutions, and then suggest which solution you think is best. Question 6 is strictly an explanation. Only explain the topic that was covered in the recording. Do not worry about your own personal opinion. Only explain what was spoken about. Here's some speaking note-taking techniques that will be very helpful to you as you move into the speaking section of the TOEFL. In order to be successful and confident in your speaking abilities while taking the TOEFL, proper note-taking is very important. As I mentioned before, if you don't have good notes, you can't do well on the section, no matter what section it is. Now you will learn a technique that will be extremely helpful for you while taking notes, not only for speaking, but also for listening. This is a style that I came up with myself that I think will be very helpful for you. As you can see, this is a very simple format. At the top we have a main topic. Down a little lower we have subtopic. Below that, example 1, 2, and 3, and then explanation of the examples. The main topic is the big picture, the big thing of what you're talking about. The subtopic is something more specifically that you're talking about under the main topic. Then the examples support what you're speaking about, and examples don't make sense without explanation. So you have to be able to explain your example in order for it to fully make sense. Let's look at a couple examples. Here's the first one. Now, let's pretend that the question says, do you think that endangered birds should be protected and saved? Now, let's assume that we would answer yes. So our main topic would be birds. That's what we're talking about, saving birds. The subtopic is endangered birds. It's a little more specific. Endangered is an adjective that describes what kind of birds we're talking about. So as you can see, we're talking about endangered birds, and then we have 3 examples here to support our opinion. The first is beauty. This is just a simple keyword that helps me or any other student remember what they're going to talk about. As I've said before, you're not going to have very much time to take notes. So using keywords or one word or even 2 or 3 words is very important to be able to clearly remember what you were going to talk about at that part of the speech. So I put beauty. I said endangered birds are often beautiful. That's one of the reasons that they're killed off and hunted so often. Some people kill them for their feathers or simply for their meat. Another example would be the food chain. Their death could disrupt the food chain. A killing off of a certain type of bird could leave a gap in the food chain, and then the ecosystem is all off balance. The third reason is preservation. Humans should take care of the earth. They're the top of the species, and it's their responsibility to take care of the other animals that live on this planet. So as you can see, here is explanations that support the example. Without the explanations, the examples do not make sense. So having every part of this format is very important. Let's look at another example. Now let's pretend that this is a personal question, which would be either question 1 or 2 in the test. Now, the question would be, what is something that you would like to learn that you haven't yet learned? Let's pretend that that thing is English. As you can see here, the main topic would be learning. So English would be the subtopic. Now, since you're studying the TOEFL, this is a good question for you because you actually are studying English. Here are some examples of why you would want to study English. First would be education. You're studying English right now and studying to take the TOEFL, probably so that you can attend a prestigious university somewhere in an English-speaking country. Here's the explanation of that example. Studying abroad becomes an option when you know English. So here is one great reason to study English and is a good thing you can use to support your own preference. The second one would be culture. Many cultures are easier to understand once you have a firm grasp on the language. Culture and language often work closely together, so language can help in understanding. The third one is business. Being bilingual is very helpful in business, not only for communication, but also gives you more power and more leverage as a business person.